be able to actually see what you type up on the screen now as well. Hopefully that's all visible, which is pretty cool. It wasn't the same link though, was it, Julie? Like, it was a different link you had to go through. Sorry for the pain of all this. It's a bit of a thing trying to work out. Oh, hey Chloe, you did have to go through a different link. Yeah. Okay, I might just send that through to the Facebook. Try this new link for the Write with Ben session. Live now. Hopefully people will get that. Need to go back to the profile. Yeah, hopefully if you could share it with people as well, Julie, maybe send it to Mandy and hang on, I'll just make sure I send it to the try booking link. Again, apologies. We'll get into it in just a second. If we can get this working though, I think this will be really fun. This format I think works. I can just make myself bigger too in case. Yeah, you can all see exactly what's on my screen, I think too, hopefully. Make that a bit bigger. Oh, hey Mandy. Very good. Yes, it's probably my fault, Mandy. So I've been trying my best. So this is an actual streaming software that I've downloaded and tried to figure out myself. So it might be better than, because the other way I was doing it was just the YouTube's live stream button. So hopefully this is better. But I can see you guys. This is good. So far, so good. Just going to send an email. But we're sort of all talking about what we're working on ourselves. Mandy, what about you? What are you working on? Where are you at with your writing? What are you excited about at the moment? And start to have a bit of a chat about what I'm looking at. Oh, hey Ash. I'm glad you made it. Apologies for all the tech stuff. Still slowly learning my craft. Because, you know, I am a live streamer now, obviously. I'm glad it's worked as well as it has, honestly. What happens if I make that bigger? Yeah, cool. I see. I see. All right, so what do you all use? What do you use for video software? Thanks, Ash. Yeah, I think so too. I think it will be good. I think it's a bit more functional than Zoom. I'm going to put that there and move my head down a bit in the thing. So, Mandy, yes, I'm currently changing my manuscript to past tense since having assessment at Bad Sydney. I did a very similar thing with To Become a Whale, actually. It was in present, and I put the whole thing in past tense. Yeah, I feel like Zoom and Teams is more designed for group chats. I feel like this is a little different. I feel like I'm sort of leading the chat a little bit. But I mean, maybe we could do something like that in the future too. I don't know. It's up to what you sort of want. I just feel like this is a good way of doing things at the moment. I'm not opposed to those sorts of things. Any way that we can just make this easier and more chilled, because then I can sort of do it a bit more sustainably. Because I'd like to start to do it a bit more regularly, because it allows me time to work on stuff that I care about too. Thanks, Chloe. Some good feedback. Yeah, but what do you all use? So I've got Scrivener up here. Do you all use Scrivener? Or do you use Word or Pages, or is there any other sort of writing software that you all sort of use? Yeah, Word, okay. You use Scrivener as well. Does yours look similar to mine, Chloe? Because essentially down the left-hand side here, I have sort of sections, and then I guess I have scenes, sort of mapped out scenes, which I guess you could call chapters. But I have a little bit of a description about what each scene is, and this sort of allows me to lay the whole thing out and see it at a glance, the rough order of the whole story. Word at the moment, I'm a newbie though. I used Word for a very long time. Perfectly good software. It's the most useful. Using it past, I love it. Yeah, that's what I love about it. Yeah, Amber. Hi, Amber, by the way. Yeah, so it used to be where, you'd be reading in Word. Like I remember I used to have to scroll down the whole page and find a scene. And it used to be quite hard to find, especially for me, because I don't name chapters with any headings. I just use numbers. So it was always very hard. I was like, where was that scene where, the boy confronts his father? And I would have to sort of go down and read through and find it. But here, I've got everything at a glance. And I can just go, oh yeah, this is the scene with Maddie. I have some notes on the right-hand side. That'll sort of be for further drafts. So I'll be like, oh, okay, I got to go back and fix that particular thing up. Mandy, that's very industrious of you. That sounds tricky. Thanks for the subscription, Ash. That's very nice of you. I'd like to start doing this more often, make it a real thing, invite your friends, make Tuesday nights, except for the Ben's Book Club night, just a writing night, focus on stuff. We could just do some writing together too. You write a scene that's no good, doesn't quite work. You can keep it to the side in a way. Yeah. I think I might even have that here. Do I? No. I do, but see down the bottom here, I don't know whether you can, yeah, you can see all the things I'm going through. But there's notes. Like I'll have notes. I even have just character names just to keep track of them. I don't really use places. I don't really use research, but I will write notes. And I mean, I wonder if I can find a different novel that I can show you. Anyway, yeah. Yeah, so I'll often have things just over on the right. With John Lacey as an example, there would be I would use different symbols to color code things. Yeah, so Mandy, that might be something that similar to what you do. So I sometimes change the icons to things like this, and the pencils would indicate some things, I need to add further emotion to this, and then this icon here, I might put, this needs to be trimmed a lot. And so I would actually go back and sort of use those symbols to highlight what I then need to do at a glance, just to keep track of ideas. Because they're big projects, hey, when you think about how many thousands of words go in, it's a lot to keep all up in your head. Yeah, see, I wouldn't know how to use Navigator panel, Mandy. I remember, Chloe, the reason I started using Scrivener was because there was a scene in, I think it was Snake Island, which I wrote on Word. But there was a scene where one of the characters, I think that book has so many characters and a few of them get injured, and keeping track of who was injured where was such a pain. He would get an injury to his arm, and then I would just trying to figure out who got injured where while I was writing, intuitively off the cuff. It was just, I found it so difficult. I've got a notebook for the research, so I guess it makes sense to probably throw it into Scrivener somewhere. PowerPoint, Mandy, that's a very interesting idea. Inspiration picks. Can I actually ask that of all of you? Do you have, what's your setup look like? Because I can show you what I have. Let's see if I can move the webcam. Hang on, sorry. Let me I don't know whether this works. Can I do this? Can you all see? So if I turn it around, this is my monitor. You can see I have a candle there as well. It's a bit hard to show you with all the leads. Oh yeah, there we go. It's a photo of my family. I just bought that candle. It's a pumpkin spice candle. I'm very pleased to have pumpkin spice, ginger, nutmeg throughout my writing times. And then this is my grandma's piano, and then some framed copies of the front covers of my books, which is really sweet. Yeah, that's my sort of space. But it's important. I think it's, I don't know, Hi, sorry. Hi, Tejas. Hi. No worries. All good. We're chilling out. We're relaxing. There's no timelines of just, if you're here, you're here. If you're not, you're not. It's good times. Hi, sorry, I just joined. Can you paste images or video clips in the notes in Scrivener? I think so. I have new text. Let's just call it something. Test run. From file. Yeah. Easy peasy. Look. Yeah, so you can add pictures and stuff. Yeah. I promise. Hi, Getty. Is that... Sorry, I've got the aircon on in Brisbane, of course. And I want to show you all this. I'm very pleased I bought this. Do you all have a nice keyboard? This is one of those mechanical keyboards. And it's got that, I don't know whether you can hear it. So I'll do some ASMR. You ready? Put the mic on it. Ready? Thanks, Mandy. I have. I've lost 35 kilos since the start of the year, actually. See? This is what you do at Christmas time. I actually hate the lights. And then you have to go back through all the options. There we go. Look, plain. I love a clicky keyboard. Yeah, me too. It's so fun. All right. So this is something that I've been working on. This is a book I wrote. I finished it at the end of last year, and I have a split keyboard. Is that one of those ones that you sort of have two hands like this? Those look really cool. Is that the one you mean? I've never used one. They look awesome though. Yeah, so I was working on this since the end of last year. I actually wrote this whole thing, and then I've just sat on it. And, it was just one of those things. I just sort of got it out and it's done. And I just didn't feel excited about it. But recently I've come back to it. I am good. Thank you. I'm wondering, I don't get it. I feel like this is a person who I know with a name on here. But anyway, um, I'm doing really well. I've had a superb year. I've certainly had some things that have gone not as I'd hoped, but there's been some things that I've done that I've been really happy with, and just generally, my life is awesome. Um, you won't guess from the username, but my name's Xavier. Oh, okay. Xavier. Is this a person who I taught a long time ago? Because I've taught a few Xavier. I think it is. Um, I actually do. I can confide in all of you. I won't say too much, but I just literally got another manuscript. Yeah, it's what you do. It always hurts. Screen keeps freezing. Oh, is it working now, Mandy? It seems to be okay on my end, but I don't know. I can sort of check the analytics on it. If you're the Xavier I'm thinking of, I really hope you're doing well. Um, that's really funny. I hope you're well. All right, I'll say it again. So um, I got a manuscript rejection just today. Just you believe it or not, about 5 minutes before I went live. I've been waiting to hear back for about 2 months. Um, and I won't go into details about all the thing because everyone's very nice and everything, but it's still hard. It's not something that's, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like sometimes I feel like you're a professional footy player and you just have a bad game or a game that goes decently, you think, but then other people might not see it that way, or you just get drafted to a team. I don't know. I think as a professional, just these sorts of things happen. Um, but you sort of have to rally. You have to come back to it. Thanks, Mandy. It's okay. It was a long shot anyway. Um, Linda, I hope you're still here. Hang on, let me just check if Linda's here. I'm gonna see if I can send a link to Linda. Yeah, I was yeah, it still hurts. I'm not gonna lie to all of you and say that it's fine. Um, Essentially, Julie, sorry to hear. Do you use an agent? Yeah, so sort of what I was aiming at. So I have a wonderful agent, but she didn't really see what I saw in this one, and um, but you're extremely right. So Amber says, I feel like the way the marketing industry is so many times books are picked up not necessarily on the quality of the work, but just what they think will sell. Look, maybe my work wasn't. I feel like it was awesome. Like I had such fun writing it. I think even if it was a bit rough around the edges, which I don't think it was, but I just think the core idea was cool and interesting. But and Tracy, I mean Tracy, you might be a bit more of an expert on this sort of thing, but it felt like to me sometimes what is cool and interesting and a bit quirky and different might also be the stuff that people shy away from, especially if it's a bit challenging. Um, People need to sell books, and it's actually tough in Australia at the moment to sell books. Even big authors are struggling to sell books and copies. So I don't think people might be taking risks on a smaller author like myself, you know. Because at the time I didn't think it was weird when I found your mail. I was in your class and brought it up to you. It's fine. It's you know it's a bit as you know students shouldn't look at my stuff or interact with me online. I mean, obviously there's a whole bunch of stuff there, but um, if you've graduated, that's totally fine. If not, though, you should, yeah, if you're the Xavier I think of, you should have graduated a while ago, I think. Um, Thanks, Amber. That's sweet of you to say. Um, that's sweet of you to say. We'll see. We'll see. I might just be one of those ones that no one ever sees except for me. But who knows? Would I resubmit to a different publisher? This was kind of a resubmit. And I feel like too, like it does get to a point where you sort of do have to trust you have to trust the experts a little bit. Sometimes, yeah. It's probably the first time I've ever felt really confident with that I thought I really had something there. Like before, I've had books rejected before, but it's always been like, oh, I can kind of see what they're coming from. But this one, I was like, oh, I really feel like there's something cool here. It's a book I would like, you know. But hey, who knows? Maybe it was just absolutely terrible. Yeah, Romantasy Amber's huge at the moment. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Xavier. It's all good. Yeah, just need to keep things above board, obviously. Live streaming is probably pretty fine too. Um, but yeah, I do hope you're doing well. Um, yeah, and like I said, it was a really sweet. Thanks, Linda. I'm glad you're still here. It was, yeah, it's been a bit tough, but you know, um, back to the drawing board a little bit. Um, if I'm being honest, Mandy, at the stage I'm at with what I'm doing, I would say probably not. Um, Self-publishing ends up becoming you end up becoming you end up becoming a publisher. Like you end up becoming like that becomes a job for you, and it's almost like the job of publishing your book outweighs the writing of your book as far as the amount of work you have to do. And I feel like I work best collaboratively too. You know, I feel like other people sort of help inspire through traditional routes most of the time. Yeah. From what I've heard, there's a lot of hustle in self publishing. And who knows, maybe if we can make, Write with Ben, I get 20,000 people on here buying my book and then I self publish. That might be something we can do. Yeah. So I wonder if there's any sort of scenes here that I can actually have a look at to sort of take you through how I think about scenes. So this book it's about essentially I keep getting feedback about my writing that it's very dark. I think yeah, Julie. I mean, look, um, I'm happy to offer my thoughts on such things. I would say I would say absolutely try the traditional route, especially if you want to. If you want to do writing as something as a career, as in you don't just want to write the one thing, you want to actually have a prolonged career as an author. It's not to say you can't do it as a self-published author. It's just such a uphill climb. Such a loud world of so many different authors all clam to one of those Etsy markets, and there's 10,000 stalls, and everyone's sort of waving at the front, come and have a look at the things that I made, but everyone's made similar things. Very hard to stand out, and the jumping up and down and shouting is no guarantee you'll get people to read it. If you're interested in just one person reading it, that's a big deal. But if you're interested in career, if you're interested in doing something a bit more sustainable, I would definitely try traditional publishing for a bit. Do all the designs, all the promo, and it costs a lot of money, Chloe, as well, right? And even just, you don't think about it, but getting a book cover designed costs money, and to do it well costs money, and it's never going to feel the way it feels to get a professionally done published book in your hands. Very hard, Julie, to get your work into bookshops, to the point where I don't even think it's possible. Sometimes they'll just say, unless it's a small like indie bookstore. Very, very difficult. Is dark a bad thing? Dark, Xavier, is not a bad thing. Dark is a thing that's not easily sellable by word of mouth. And so this is the thing that I've been told a fair. Ones that people recommend, you have to read. Like you have to read the new Trent Dalton. You have to read it. It's so good. It made me feel so awesome. You got to go read it. People recommend books that make them feel good. And have sort of deep, they make them feel like they've gone through deep ideas and themes and confronted things, but still gave them a sense of like uplift at the end. Whereas if it's just dark, it's very rare that a person goes, man, you got to read this book. It just made me feel so bad about the state of the world. And I just felt really confronted with my physical, spiritual being, and I'm not sure about eternity anymore, and I'm questioning everything. You got to read it. It's a harder word of mouth. And that's the second one is kind of where my books go. So that might be why I struggle sometimes to get people in. Anyway, have hope. Like, I'm not just a dark guy who thinks that the world's a catastrophe and everything sucks. Like, I think there's a lot of good in the world, and it was a challenge for me to sort of go, could I write a book that has hope, that has love, that has that uplift? And not because I want to sell it, but just because it was a personal challenge. And so this book is structured off music. Okay, and this the idea of creating music as a way of expressing yourself and a way of connecting people. And, you know, I'm a musician. I've got a degree in music. I teach music in high school. Like, music's a thing that really saved me. And so writing a book about a musician, I thought would be a really good way of being authentic and doing something meaningful. As a minor, and I've taken this from an 1806 book about what the different chords mean. So the book is kind of structured based on the chords. And the book essentially tells the whole life story of this one guy named Jonah Wright. And the whole book is essentially from birth to death. And it's just about his journey with music and falling in love and sort of struggling to... I wanted a scene. I think it's, where is it? I think it's here. Yeah. Essentially, he quits the band, and he's right on the cusp of making it big as a musician and following his dream. But he quits the band because his wife, his daughter's born with bacterial meningitis, which was something that actually happened to me when our son was born. Sort of, that was probably the worst experience of my life, that fear of him. And so I wanted to write that. I wanted to write authentically from that position. And I didn't want it to make it feel like a sacrifice, like he was sacrificing his dream to go and be with his daughter, who ends up losing her sight because of the meningitis that she's born with. And he essentially says, no, I want to be there for my family. And I wanted, I don't know, I wanted to sort of throw that back on our world, who I think a lot of the time, us in the world, we kind of, we really emphasize success over a simple life. Like, a successful life is big and full of, you know, follow your dreams, right? But I don't think Jonah doesn't, it's not like it's a sacrifice to him. He's just like, no, it's my daughter. I'm not going to go and do that thing, you know? So I wanted to throw that question back on people, like, what do you really care about? Yeah. So Sorry, I'll just have a look. Ash, you said you mentioned the bad crime. Was that towards me, Ash, that you're saying that, or was it there was someone else who was talking about the Bad Crime Festival? I think maybe Julie. I haven't read the Magic Strings of Frankie Presto. Could you tell me about that? Because I'm actually very interested in books about music at the moment. Oh, so yeah. Sorry, Tejas is saying to Ash. Yeah. Um, Interesting, Chloe. I'll have to look that one up. That sounds really interesting. Any events you go to with other writers, even coming to something like this, I mean, you guys are networking at the moment. You're meeting each other, and these are the sorts of things that you go to that you can actually. It's not networking. You're just genuinely wanting to be friendly with people, and this is good networking, and that's all. Every single one of those events, every festival, especially ones where you can get manuscript feedback, people do remember things. And they remember, oh, that was a really interesting thing, and then they pop up later over here, and it's just a way that you start to establish a bit of yourself. Oh, that sounds beautiful, actually, Chloe. I'll have to look it up. Mitch Albom. Why do I know that name? He wrote, what was that one he wrote? Tuesdays with Murray. That's the one. Oh, and then the five people you meet in heaven. I'll have to look it up. Yeah, and I can sort of see that, like the metaphor for that. Tuesdays with Murray. Yeah, it's got. I mean, the book's got a lot of stuff in here. It's quite personal to me. It's got. So the first scene. I saw something I thought that was really interesting actually with this. So the first scene here, you can see I've got something that says "Meet Dad," right? And then as I was writing about the dad, I wrote this. Hopefully, you guys can all read this. Um, His father was not a man of many words. Instead, he told his stories through his hands. Jonah would watch as he ate his food, as he worked a knife and fork, as he worked in the garden. I'll double up worked there, I'll fix that. There was oil embedded in his fingerprints and the dirt beneath the nails. A portion of his small finger on his right hand was absent, a chunk near to the nail down to the first knuckle. Jonah imagined he had lost it in the war somehow, had in his mind seen the explosions happen as he'd read about it in his books. He spoke his satisfaction by folding his hands and placing them on his lap. He told of his affection with how he patted Jonah on the shoulder, how he held his hand there and even sometimes gripped him. He would laugh through his hands as he placed the small flesh of his thumb between his forefinger and middle finger and claimed to have stolen Jonah's nose. So that old gag got your nose. He had his stories too. They were only quieter spoken with a different language. So that whole scene came out of just me writing. I just was going with where I felt led. But it became a really interesting recurring thing with the dad where I would take care, like if he was saying something, I would go back and delete it and I would do a gesture. And it was really fun to do that way. But it wasn't intentional. Like it wasn't something that I did purposefully, like pre-thought out. It was just as I was writing about the dad, it just felt right. But what became really interesting was later in the book, I got this idea to have the dad actually start to struggle with Parkinson's disease. Again, my dad has struggled with Parkinson's for 25 years now. Like he got it very early as an early for dad. Um, but the fact that his hands would shake and he couldn't say what he wanted to say as well, it was so interesting to me. Um, but it came out of just my intuition, it came out of something that I was just playing with. And then it sort of started to, it became this whole thing. I thought it was so interesting. Yeah, so he goes into the hospital here and he has this finger test. And it actually meant I had to talk to my dad a little bit about how they found out he had Parkinson's disease. There's a lot of my dad in him, saying, like, calling it Parkies and um, But I still don't know about the book, if I'm honest. I still feel like it rambles a bit. I really like parts of it, but I don't know. I feel like it's strongest in the setup. Like, I feel the first 3 sections are very strong, and then I feel it sort of loses its track. But that's also that main thing that I liked, is about the meningitis and the. So I don't know. I'm still. Part of me toys with just sending it to someone and seeing what they say. I don't know. I love and what I care about and things personal to me, and it feels a bit risky. There's no antagonist either. There's no bad guy. Everyone's trying to get along. Everyone's doing their best. I mean, at the start, there sort of is. There are these bullies who sort of bully him, but then he ends up joining a band with one of them, and they become friends. So, yeah, I don't know. I also got to write about, I don't know whether you can see, I got to write about, there's this concert in, I think it was 81 or 82, 83 maybe, called Stop the Drop. Very big concert in Melbourne. He went, and the character goes to that gig. And it was fun to watch the YouTube vision of the concert on there. But I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. And see, this scene here I loved. Where is it? Is it here? Yeah, this. So this whole thing is about they're at the gig, right? And after the gig, somebody sort of confronts him, because the gig was about, stopping nuclear arming of the world, right? So it's peace, get rid of the nuclear weapons from around the world. And this guy's, what are you grin for, right? And then his dad sort of starts to defend him, but this guy is just really angry. Like, it's not a joke. Like, we're trying to stop this war, and I had this confrontation. And the first instinct I had was dad goes in and sort of beats this guy up. And it's a bit tough guy and it's a bit unknowable. But, yeah, look, effing walk away, he heard the man's voice, not quite shouting a bit loud enough so they'd hear it, like you lot always do. Jonah felt his father leave him. He patted Jonah once on the back, cautioning him with his hands for Jonah to remain where he was, and he was walking back up the steps. So here I had him go up and sock the guy, and it was this scene, and Jonah felt uncomfortable and, physical violence. And so I had him do this. His father lifted his hand as he approached the man and his friends. He had in front of him, out and up. Jonah couldn't see his face. As he reached the man, he kept his hand out, and the man was glaring at him, wary. His father nodded down at his outstretched hand, and then the man who'd been shouting at them extended his own, and then the two of them shook hands. They exchanged words. Jonah couldn't hear what was said on account of the distance. His father had his back tensed, his shoulders back, but the other man seemed to relax a bit, looking at how he turned to his friends, looking at how his face eased. Jonah's father shook the man's hand again and then turned and walked back to Jonah. As he approached, Jonah said, "What did you say?" His father sighed, hefting himself, and put a hand over Jonah's shoulders. The two of them walked down the steps towards Diesel. His father said, "I just said his shouting at us wasn't helping his cause, and that's it. I said we listened to what was said and we were thinking about it, and that we had a nice time, and I thanked him." Thanked him? He just gives a shit, mate. It's not so bad. I'm like, it's much more interesting to me. I was so pleased with that little moment. He did something, I think, unusual and a bit more interesting than what I think a lot of books and TV is. Always the dad goes in and socks the guy, right? But I just thought that was a little bit more interesting. Hopefully you guys are still there. I've realized I haven't seen or heard from you for a little while. They kept walking, his father's hand on his back steady. "Why'd you speak to him at all?" He said. "We could have just kept walking," his father grunted. "I guess the next bloke that comes along." Oh, thanks, Tracy. Yeah, thanks, Julie. I just, it's funny to me. Like, I set out to write a scene a certain way, but if you allow yourself to be a bit surprised by yourself, that was me surprising myself, and that was the character, I guess. I don't feel like that whole thing of, the character spoke to me, but I just felt he wouldn't do that thing that's so stereotypical. But it actually made it interesting because down here, Jonah actually tries the same thing. So here, I see if I can find it here. He thought of his father, then shaking hands. So this guy is essentially yelling at his girlfriend in the park. Like, it's a pretty ugly scene. And Jonah decides he's going to step in and help. He says he thought of his father, then shaking hands with the man at the concert, how he'd diffused the situation. Nice to meet you, Jonah said, and breathed. He came to the man and extended a hand out in greeting and nodded down toward it. So, yeah. The man bundled his fists up and swung his arm quickly. He smacked into Jonah's ear. Jonah fell back, and the man was on top of him. And so he ends up in hospital. Like, he gets bowled over. But I don't know. I wanted to put that in because I don't know. I think there's something essential about acting in a way with dignity and kindness. You don't always get rewarded. It's not always the good outcome that you hope for. And yeah, his dad got it that one time, but it doesn't mean it's going to happen every time. And I guess I was just trying to add a bit of complexity to it. Like, I'm not just sugars and fairies and everything works out and we all shake hands. But then Maddie also takes him to the hospital. Maddie's who ends up being his wife. And see, he does this in an effort to protect her too, because here, the bullies that were in the school were making fun of her. And this little scene here, he doesn't do anything. Why didn't you do something? Why didn't you tell me? I didn't think it mattered, I guess. What do you mean? I mean, it doesn't matter, does it? Of course it matters. Why? It matters to me, was all she said. He wanted to put a hand on her back, but didn't. He didn't know what to say. He chose to stand and squat in front of her and put a hand on top of her head. It was a strange gesture. He knew it was strange, but he kept it there a moment until she looked at his eyes, and he simply sat there and tried his best to say the unsayable. She pushed him off, and then essentially she goes and clobbers the bully and gets her own justice. But he feels like he was inadequate in that little moment. And so down here, he's trying to address that. He's trying to be his dad. And it just, nothing goes right. But don't you love him for why he was doing that? Like, I don't know. I feel like there's something beautiful about a person who's doing their best and it doesn't work. I think it's a very admirable person. And there's this beautiful stuff up here too, making a birdhouse with his mum. Maybe this book's good. I don't know. Sometimes I read it back and I'm like, I think there's some really cool stuff in it. But there's some things that I just think, I don't know about it. I feel like it rambles. Thank you, Mandy. Yeah, like, I'm just excited to show you all. I often think about that, Julie, honestly. I think it would be cool to actually fragment it a bit more, but I don't know. So there's this scene here, sad mum. And so he comes home and sometimes he just finds his mum crying and she's just on the couch and she never says anything. She always sort of hides it from everyone, but he knows. And so I sort of set that up there. But then here, this is the only time in the book that it goes in non-linear progression. But this scene here, it started with melancholy womanliness, the spleen and humours brood. But essentially, you go back in time and they're on a little tent, like a camping trip, and he's about 5. But you find out that she's pregnant here. So at some stage she's lost. She's had a miscarriage, I think, which upsets her, and she's grieving, I guess. and continues to grieve, which I feel is very honest. But this scene is a really beautiful little scene as well, because again, I had the dad outside, and again, this is my childhood, in the tent with mum. Dad's outside in the pouring rain trying to dig a trench around the tent to ward off the water to make it not just seep in under the tent. Just swearing, carrying on, and getting completely angry. And but then, so I originally just had him get angry and then storm off in anger, right? But then essentially I just asked myself, what's a more interesting version of this scene? And where is it? So this is where he's swearing, right? Loud swearing, direct at the sky, at the earth. As soon as he watched the silhouette stop outside, his father stayed on. It was impossible to tell what he was doing through the tent, so it's a bit scary, right? You okay? His mother yelled. His father didn't immediately respond to this. Soon, though, Jonah heard his father laughing. It started small as a chuckle and then grew into the sound rivaling the sound of the wind slapping into the tent. It was louder than the swearing. His mother called again, "You okay?" And then she stood up and went to the entrance. She trod carefully, slowly, lifted the tent flap a little. Jonah saw the water splashing in. His father's laughter outside had stopped. There was nothing beyond the thumping of the rain. His father ran inside. There was mud all over his clothes, and he did not remove his boots. Oops, got to fix that up. He ran in, almost colliding with Jonah's mother. "Henry," his mother yelled. Jonah saw his father's eyes, how open and alive they seemed. He was frenzied in the torchlight, looking for prey. He found her. She tried to run, but he was on her, grappling her into his arms. She was yelling and laughing. Jonah was at him then, grabbing at the leg. His father reached down and ran his muddy hand through Jonah's hair. His father, with his strength, grappled Jonah's mother down to the sleeping bag, careful to not let her fall, but pushing her all the same. "Stop," she kept shouting, but there was laughter in her so hard she could barely form the words. His father held them both to his chest, and Jonah could feel the cold and wet of his clothing leaking through. His father rolled with them all over the bedding, muddying everything. He let them go after one rotation, but kept rolling himself into the wall of the tent so hard the whole thing shook, and then somewhere else near them was the sound of the tent ripping. His father kept at it. So essentially, he just, in a wild frenzy, destroys the whole tent. They were all then engulfed in the canvas of the tent. It was on them, and the torchlight somewhere was shrouded from Jonah, so that he was in blackness. Before he could panic properly, he felt hands around his knees, and then he was yanked from the tent out into the rain. And raining it was, drumming hard into his skin, into his hair. His mother there with him, shaking her head at his father, who was grinning, standing. The torch had resurfaced in his father's hands. He had angled to the ground. It moved over to what remained of their tent, sodden wet in a pile on the ground. "You're a maniac," his mother said. "Why'd you do that?" Jonah asked. "He's fighting it, but this is more fun." And then he was dancing. I was thinking I was so pleased with that. His legs were out and he was kicking. He swept Jonah's mother, like dancing in the rain with your family and then huddling in the car at the end. Again, I just think his father's I feel like I'm really pleased with his father. Like, he's such a beautiful dad, I think. And that's why. Like, knowing, and again, the whole book is a little bit too about this idea of like bending, like loving someone is bending. It's at the sort of start here. Here, look. This was how Jonah came to understand love, wrapped up in a story two people told together, both of them enjoying their combined story, wanting to tell it together, adding to it, bring to it their lives and their hearts and their being. Some are bound up in the way each of their stories would bend to accommodate the other. Neither of them forcing it. Bending was love. So that's sort of like the mission statement of the book, and the rest of it's sort of about that idea. Like, can you test that idea through all these different things? No worries, Julie. Thank you for being a part. We'll finish up pretty soon anyway. Sorry, I've really realised I've sort of gone a bit longer than I normally do. It's been fun. Hopefully this is, we should start doing this a bit more regularly. I might go live a bit more often. Make sure you, I guess, subscribe, and then if I do go live, you'll just sort of see it. I don't know how much I'll be able to keep up with the try booking stuff, but I'll try to post on the YouTube group and stuff when I go live. Ash, did you want to have a chat too? I think you wanted to have a bit of a chat. Did you want to? We could do this here where you just type your questions and I can answer them, or we could do a call or something, whatever you're interested in. Yeah, I agree, Chloe. Okay, that would be good, Ash, if you wouldn't mind. It just sort of makes it a bit. Thanks, Tracy. Yeah, I had fun too, and I don't know what'll happen with this whole book. We'll see. Might be one I just keep in my back pocket, or it might be one I send through. I don't know. Never know with this sort of thing. Well, I'd be keen too. Like, if any of you want to send me stuff, like, my email. We could do something very similar with all of your writing too. We could sort of throw it up and read it all together and sort of. No, like, don't feel any pressure, but it's fun. Like, I find it fun to read through things that I care about and. Um, yeah, and this will be all saved on the YouTube, so you can always go back and watch if you're interested. So, Ash, what do you think are the benefits of Ben's Book Club? Do you get feedback from it? I would say the big benefit of it is that it's essentially the only book club that I know of that makes authors accessible to remote communities. Um, Getting the big sort of money marketing spend on authors to go to all the like regional communities. Some can, but it's essentially, I mean, it's essentially so beneficial to people in areas that might not normally access, or even people who just don't want to go into the city on a weeknight. Like there's a lot of people who want to hear from authors, but they don't have access, and I just think that's so important. I think it's beneficial to authors because they get more readers, they get people listening to their and reading their work they wouldn't have had otherwise. I think it's beneficial to libraries because they get a program that's something really that they don't have to work on, they just advertise it. So I think it's helpful for libraries. And I think it's beneficial to me because I get to talk to authors and pick their brains about how they do what they do. I just think it's one of those everybody wins. Everybody gets something out of it. It's advantageous for all. Most of the time from Ben's Book Club, I get feedback from people really enjoying the chats, really enjoying the authors and the books. And I think one of the biggest things I've loved is seeing all readers read books and they're like, I just didn't get this one. It wasn't quite for me. I still think I'd like to attend though. And then when they actually hear from the author, they're like, I can kind of swings their mind around. They're like, I see that. That's awesome. Like, that's so cool that we can sort of, I don't know, open up the bridge between authors and readers. I think that's really fun. Do I feel nervous before interviewing? Sometimes. Depends on the author. Most of the time I feel pretty comfortable now. I've just been doing it so long. I would say the times I feel the most uncomfortable are when I'm doing it live, and I have a few live events. So, as an example, on Saturday, I'm interviewing Craig Silvey about the new Runt novel at Gold Coast Library, Broadbeach. But it's a big crowd, a lot of people, a lot of kids, but just a big crowd. And like interviewing someone like Trent Dalton or Michael Connolly or Jane Harper, like those really big crowds can get a bit intimidating. Because I feel like as an interviewer, you sort of have to be a bit vulnerable. You have to bring your own. You have to be willing to ask questions you don't know the answer to make a really genuine chat between two people. And that's scary sometimes live, to think on your feet. There's been a few times where I've had that panic where I'm sort of like, wait, what's the question? What am I doing? but I find it as I speak. But man, it's that's a sinking feeling. But other than that, I feel okay. Um, so that question, was there one particular interview you remember that epitomizes the book club? The audience was on fire. The author was enthusiastic. There's been a few for sure. I'm just trying to think of the ones that really stand out to me. Chris Hammer's always a really good one. Like he and I are mates, and it's really fun. Like it's a really relaxed chat to chat with Chris. So I just feel completely comfy, and it's just like we're just having an old gas bag, and there's people around. Um, I loved so we interviewed Craig Silvey for the first Runt novel on the book club very early on, and I actually had my two boys come in and ask him the first couple of questions. That was really special. Um, but then any of the ones where we get a good crowd too, with a lot of cool questions. Um, I would say, oh, so forgive me, I've forgotten the name of the book. We did it very early on this year. I've forgotten the name of the book, and I've forgotten the name of the author. It was that book about yeah, Tracy. Yeah, it is. It's on the. It should be on. If you type in Ben's Book Club, Craig Silvey, you'll see my two children. um. Oh, what was the name of the book? It was about that. It was that art book. I'm sorry, I've forgotten the name. Yeah, he's lovely. He's a lovely bloke. He's got a time for everybody, which I really appreciate with him because he's very, um, pretty prolific. Like a lot of people know him, but he always treats each person like they're unto themselves. You know. Woo woo, thank you, Nicola. Yes, thank you. Woo woo with Ella Baxter. That one was really fun because there was a lot of people who were a bit standoffish with it when we were talking on Facebook before the event. But talking with Ella and just having such good questions, it was really fun. I think that's what the book club does well, is it breaks down barriers between people, and we can just have a good chat and see things from different points of view. I would say that's a big one as well. Aiming to promote Aussie authors and help them practice their craft. Do you think an initiative like Ben's would be where there's some funding like that? I think some talking with Mel, but they run Ben's Book Club, and so they essentially get libraries interested in their reading platform through libraries because they offer programs, and the libraries can run the programs, and so they are funding it. I've actually thought things like what we're doing here, this Write with Ben session. I've actually thought about, could this be a thing where we can actually go and get at least some funding or some. I'd like to do it more consistently, or to just have more people show up. So advertising it through, not that you guys aren't super quality people and worth showing up for on your own, but I think the more the merrier. And then to have that advertised through like the Australian Writer Centre and things like that, just as a place people can come and hang out, I thought would be really fun. Thanks, Mandy. I'm definitely not going to give up, but I will definitely also, I don't know, have a rethink, I think. To be fair, too, that book was already rejected once, so it's like, it's less of a blow than the first one. No worries, Ash. Hopefully those were good answers. Tracy, you're not wrong. I, if I'm honest, sometimes I do think about not quitting, but just like, not even quitting. It's just, do I still care? Do I still care about reading? Do I still care about writing enough to continue to do it? And I think there's a lot of me that does, but it's definitely times where I feel I question, like what does it say in the Bible about, your first love, forsaking your first love? Like I fell in love with this whole thing for an idea, and then you get sort of trapped into a way of doing it, and you forget why you originally got into it. Stock, I do have a rethink. I don't try to rush into the next thing. I just think it's a shame that it didn't work. Like, it obviously, yeah, something people aren't interested in. Anyway, that's okay. That is okay. We might finish it there, everybody. I appreciate you being here. We'll see how we go. I think, what am I doing next week on Tuesday? See how we're going. Might see if we can do another one next week. Ash, you might be right on that. I actually just think rejection sucks in general. Imagine it's just like going for a job that you really want, and someone else gets it. And you're like, I thought I was right for that, you know? And you sort of rethink, I don't want that blasted job anyway, and then you sort of go back and everyone experiences it too. I just think I think sometimes we as authors can be what's the word, hyper dramatic about the weight of rejection. It sucks, and it's not fun, and you do have to grieve sometimes, and sometimes it's years of your life dedicated to a thing that you have to sort of let go of. That's tough, but also I think there's a lot of rejection for every person ever, and everyone's experienced it, and I would rather feel rejected than having never tried. And that is, if I have anything that is me, is that, the first one published in the first place. A bit stubborn that way. All right. Thanks for being here. It's been really lovely. I hope you've all enjoyed yourselves. But yeah, I'll start to just post it on the group when I'm going live or something, and we'll see if we can do this a bit more regularly. Keep writing, keep emailing me if you have any news you'd like to share. But other than that,